The stuff that I found have just been draining me more and more and more is like the videos that I make about like responding to like the Matt Walshes and the J.K. Rowlings and just the bigots of the world. And I'm becoming more and more focused on like going forward. I want to start making, and I feel like a lot of people are feeling this way I'm expressing it, is we're tired of responding to the nonsense bigots because they're number one, they're boring. They have the same 5 arguments over and over and over again, all under the auspices of like woke, but it's the same like 5 or 6 stock arguments that they'll trot out at whatever. And we're always responding on their terms. And it's always something else. It's always something like just nonsense bullshit that you're arguing. Like right now as a nerd, I'm like dealing with it in Star Wars all over again. That whole thing of like, oh, look, there's black people in my Star Wars again. And like whatever way they want to couch their racism. And I feel like we've hit a point where I think people are really just feeling tired and exhausted. I hear it across the board. And I think we're at a place, and I think this might be a moment for, again, like leftist, like consciousness building, class consciousness building is we want to focus on something that feels constructive and feels like it's affirming and feels like it's building and hopeful. And so I'm thinking more and more about we just to tell people that, we're seeing the imperial empire world that we're in crumbling upon itself and stressing out and trying to like do everything it can to reassert the status quo through dominance. And what our job is like, us like people who talk about this stuff is to present new ways that we can think about the world and new dreams of the way the world can be. Because once you like dream it, I'm being very artistic in mind, is like I try and present in the work that I make of like, here's something new that we could build. Here's a new way of thinking about the world. And in thinking it, maybe we can tell people that maybe we can start performing it, because all of this stuff is only built up of how people perform. It's like gender. Gender is a performance, but so too is our society. It's a performance of how we interact with each other, how we treat each other. And if we start teaching people to perform something new, building something new, and seeing a new way of thinking about the world and dreaming about the world, then we can make that. I think that's what people really are feeling right now, because we're just exhausted by the endless bullshit. So anyway, sorry, I got very high-minded there.
No, I agree. That's really well
totally
put.
Agree. I'm literally going through the exact same thing. I was like, this is a vibe. For me, a lot of it I think has been also a lot of just October 7th reality of the world, how it has woken up so many people to how these systems are interconnected, but also just this idea. And I was telling people in the Mafia last week that like I feel sometimes like you're living in a digital version of the zone of interest, where like you've got a screen, a tablet, or a computer, or a tab, and you get to see all the horrors of the world. Like just look over the wall, and then you can see like how the people in like the Congo are suffering, or then you just go back up, and then you turn it off, you close the tab, and you go have a food and a shower and you go to the garden and all that kind of stuff. And then it's just, but it's ever present in your brain now, right? Like I can't unsee these images I see every single morning of all the dead kids. And then how does that like, affect what I'm assuming the rest of you want to do in terms of like putting stuff out there? Like, we're entertainers, but like I do think like there is a utility in, again, having more than just entertainment, like and we should be inspiring people, or at least speaking more about hope, because everything on the news, if you're not stressed out about Palestine, you should be really stressed out about climate change. It's the 5th hottest month ever recorded. All the monkeys are dying in India. It's really sad. And then it's like, well, yeah, do you know where all the minerals come from to be in the computers that are actually powering what you're working on right now? That's not good either, right? Like this spiral is just consistent, and we're constantly just like having to absorb it and then compress and compartmentalize and then try and create on top of that. Long answer short, I totally agree with you. I think everyone's going through that.
Yeah, because it feels like things are perpetually getting worse, right? Like we're coming after 2020, which COVID hit, and then there were the Black Lives Matter protests, and then I think that so many people's brains were broken due to COVID. So then you have this realization that, oh my God, we're so divided, culturally speaking. We can't even get people to agree to wear masks or take a vaccine. And then you have this, you have October 7th and the genocide in Gaza. And now it's like, wow, I can't even get people to agree that genocide is bad. So it's just like, you're kind of hit with this wake up call again and again that like the people who you thought you knew aren't the people you thought you knew. You kind of feel really isolated and lonely because there's just, what you thought was common sense really isn't necessarily common sense for a lot of people. And grappling with that, I think, has been difficult for a lot of us.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's part of how this system just perpetuates itself too, right? Like telling you like the world's ending, why try? You have nothing good to choose. You have convicted felon on one hand, and you have a genocide sister on the other. Genocide enthusiast, yeah. Someone who's complicit in genocide on the other hand, and it's like you just don't have any choices. So why bother? The world's ending, everything's awful, and I think the way through that is to remind people that there are people out there that do recognize what is happening, that do recognize that this stuff is horrible and are fighting for it and fighting for each other. Like I really do look at the stuff that happened. I mean, it's horrible. The state violence that was enacted upon the protesters at UCLA and everywhere. But it was also very hopeful to me to just see. Hi. Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt. Continue.
No. I was just saying it inspired me to see like there are people out there who are fighting and realizing that like we can build community. We can still do this. There are people that see things, see clearly what's going on. And we're told that you're just supposed to like close yourself off and feel like you're alone in this. But no, there are people out there, and just reminding yourselves of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to, in other words, we have to find like ways to cope and ways to like express ourselves differently. Otherwise we're all gonna go fucking insane. And I feel like I am sometimes where you just listen to and especially like if you are really hyper fixated on the news, which a lot of people are right now, because how could you not be? You hear just the dumbest shit. You tune into MSNBC, you hear genocidal rhetoric when that's supposed to be like the liberal station. I'm thinking of like a Donny Deutsch clip that he shared on Twitter where he's basically like, he sounds like a fucking Nazi. And I think it was Crystal Ball who said he was using Osama bin Laden logic to justify the killing of civilians in Gaza. And it's like, how am I listening to this on mainstream media? So it's like these kind of things just make you feel so crazy. And yet, maybe he's not representative of everyone, but the fact that this is just such a common thing and like is one example of many fucked up things that people are saying, not just about Gazans, but trans people and people of color. It's very demoralizing. So yeah, like as you said, the system just beats you down, and trying to find ways to get people to stay engaged and find ways to get ourselves, to stay engaged is it's a challenge.
And I think focusing on like not continue the conversation on their terms, right, is like that's the way I've been thinking about it going forward, is that I want to focus on making content that elicits like hope or is something that I'm encouraged or excited about more and more. I've just been finding that making content that is based off of responding to bigots all the time just constantly lets them dictate the terms, and it wastes your time and wastes your energy. And just again continues to just elicit engagement on that spectrum. And it's like, no, let's just say fuck that and actually talk about like, all right, what are some good ways that like we can build solidarity? What are some good ways that we can actually practice like making more egalitarian systems and power? Like they start focusing on that, and then also just focusing on joy, especially like we're here in Pride now. It's like joy, and it seems trite to say like joy is a revolutionary act, but it truly is to find joy right now and be like, I am encouraged by this. I find hope in life in this, because again, fascism and all these things, they want to tell you that your life is meaningless. Human beings are stupid and awful. And we're all just, inherently, sinful. Yeah. And work will set you free. Give yourself to the state. That's how you solve it. It's like, no, find joy in yourself, in community and with others. Like that's really important. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Have you all heard the quote by Adam McKay, director of The Big Short, where he's like, Mussolini invented the term fascism, and his definition was the merging of the state and the corporation. He also called it corporatism, which was the Webster's Dictionary definition until corporation bought Webster's Dictionary and removed any mention of corporations from the definition of fascism.
Fascinating. Fascinating.